Can the police force be roaming in civil dress? Of course, yes. However, that is done for information gathering purposes and not to dispense the crowd or to beat the civilians and the citizens of the country. However, they have done exactly that, and now the people whom we look up to that they will be upholding the law, protecting the law, are being required to be told what the law is and what they should and should not do. Now, the news is coming up wherein Delhi police has asked the personnel, the Delhi police personnel, the uniform personnel to wear the uniform while they are there dispensing the crowd. Now we'll understand the entire news as to what has happened and what have they done, what the law says, or if there is any specific law in place or not, what the courts have said with respect to the police officers wearing the civil dress and beating the crowd. All this and much more is what we will see in this video. So first things first about the news. So what had happened is at Jantar Mantar in Delhi, where the protests are going on, there were police officers, there were RAF etc. who were dispensing the crowd. They had lathi charge, thrown tear gas, so on and so forth. Now amidst all that, there were certain people in civilian dress who were also lathi charging the public. Now subsequent to that, an order has come from the Delhi police who have directed that all the personnel who are deployed at this Jantar Mantar protest, they should report in official uniform only. Now why it has been said? Because there has been allegations that these personnel in plain clothes, they used force against the protesters. At the same time, some of them allegedly removed the name badges also, and when asked, they are saying that that is because we wear additional gear, so it falls off and it gets stamped by the people, so that is disrespectful. However, not understanding the sensitivity and the requirement of having their name badges, so that they also have the thought of being identified and remain within the bounds of the constitution and the law that they are trying or projecting to basically secure. Now this is what has happened and this is what the directive is, but we will see, is there any law which specifically mandates or restricts such thing or not, and what the Supreme Court has said. So what can finally be done is what we will see. Before we move ahead, an announcement with respect to the new batches that are starting at Legacy IAS Academy with a maximum batch size of 40 students only. The new batches with respect to regular batch starts on 3rd of August, and the weekend batch specifically for the working professionals and college going aspirants starts on 8th of August, plus there are other batches as well. Once you enroll with Legacy IAS Academy, there will be multiple advantages you will have over others. Some of them are over here, like the comprehensive coverage of syllabus, maximum size of the batch 40 students, I have told, daily mains answer writing practice, test series for both prelims as well as mains, and a 360-degree approach for current affairs, wherein the entire week's current affairs will be covered in live classes. In addition to that, the game changer is actually the one-on-one mentorship and doubt solving session, as well as regular interactions which you will have with the faculties. Now, in addition to that, if you are still to select the option, or you have selected the option and they are either psychology or PSIR or anthropology and sociology, so these are one of the most prominent, popular and most sought after optional papers for various reasons, right? So psychology, anthropology have very concise syllabus. Then PSIR is going to help you in GS2, in governance, in polity, in international relations, wherein sociology is going to help you in GS paper 1, wherein 8 to 9 questions are being asked over there, plus the syllabus is also concise. So if you are looking for attempting 27 or 28 and these are your optionals, you can enroll with us. The classes will start from 17th of August. Now if you want to enroll with us, you can simply download the apps through scanning these quick response code or call on the numbers that are given over here. Now let's move ahead with respect to the news. The question is, why are police deployed in plain clothes? That's a beautiful question. In fact, they should never have done that in the first place, but they can do that, not a problem. However, not have done in the sense that these plainclothes police personnel should have not beaten the people. That is the idea. So the police at times are deployed in plain clothes for intelligence gathering, for crowd assessment, for identifying protest organizers and potential troublemakers. So for identifying such people and gathering the intelligence, for all these reasons they can be deployed in plain clothes. Undercover surveillance, infiltration, preventing violence against uniformed personnel in sensitive situations, all these things make sense also, and for that they should be there. That is really good. However, indiscriminately beating, lathi charging anyone that comes in front of them is not what they are deployed for in plain clothes. That has to be made absolutely clear. So let's see what is the legal position of this in India. Now there is no specific law to stop this from happening. You can deploy them, but for the reasons that has been mentioned. So no specific law, neither the BNSS 2023 say anything about it. However, the chapter 11 of BNSS says that it empowers magistrates and police officers to disperse unlawful assemblies. Now here also an important point is disperse, to disperse. Now if someone has fallen, you are cornering them and keeping on beating them is not the thing of you trying to disperse them, right? And it is only to be used to disperse them, and of course they are already running, but cornering them on one side and beating again is not the thing that should be done. Now some of the experts, they argue that officers issuing lawful directions should be identifiable. This also makes sense, that if there is someone who is saying, okay, I want you to go away from this, vacate this position, this place. Now why would I listen to that person unless and until I know that they are representative of the governance system? Their representative nature of the governance system can be understood from the uniform or from the ID card, and they have to identify themselves first before doing that. In civilian dress, if I listen, then I don't know who that civilian dress wearing person is. So that is a problem. Now what's the judicial position? So DK Basu versus State of Bengal. In this case, Supreme Court mandated that arresting officers must bear clear and visible identifications. Details of officers involved in arrest interrogation must be officially recorded as to who has arrested them, and forget that, first they need to be identifiable. The Andhra Pradesh High Court has mentioned that it has not mentioned, rather questioned, how citizens can recognize police officials in plain clothes while discharging the official duties. So that is a very important question again. However, there is no direct Supreme Court ruling specifically governing the plain clothes policing during the protest. So there is no law or Supreme Court judgment which specifically mentions that. So then comes the question of constitutional and human rights. So if you talk about constitutional rights, Article 19(1)(a) gives the freedom of speech and expression. Article 19(1)(b) talks about right to assemble peacefully. Then Article 21 is protection of life and personal liberty. Now because under the ambit of these articles, you have the right to free speech, freedom of expression is also present. Now however, there are certain governance concerns. What are the governance concerns with respect to the use of force? Accountability in the use of force. Who will be accountable? There is no transparency if you are doing so. Prevention of misuse of the authority is in grave danger. Protection of both public order and civil liberties, both need to be balanced over here. You cannot completely disregard the civil liberties over here. So what are the challenges in front of us? If with respect to security provisions, the need for covert intelligence is there. Preventing organized violence is also there. Protecting police personnel is also there. But then in civilian uniform, you should do that only and not beat the people. So if you look at from rights perspective, difficulty in identifying the official, you don't know whether you are official or not, and someone else can take the advantage in that. Reduced accountability for excessive force, because they may think that no one can identify them, so psychologically they might start using more force. Challenges in filing complaints also, because there's no name, no name plate. Erosion of public trust in the law enforcement, because we trust the system. That's why when we see a uniform, the personnel asking certain things, we pay heed, pay attention and obey that. If that is not there and this is what is being done, the law, the trust in the law will also go down. So what should be the way forward? There needs to be standard operating procedure for deployment of people or police personnel or any uniformed or governance personnel in plain clothes. Mandatory identification when exercising coercive power has to be there. No argument can be used against that. Right. Now, universal use of body worn cameras during crowd control is also important, so that the things get recorded and you also know that whatever you are doing is recorded. Regular human rights and crowd management training for the police personnel also becomes important in this case. If we can do that, it would be a great first step in deploying, or let's say deploying the police personnel in plain clothes and enforcing the law and order. Thank you.